Good evening. I'm bringing you breaking news about a major economic showdown between the United States and Canada that's sending shockwaves through North American markets. President Donald Trump has announced sweeping tariffs against Canadian imports, citing national security concerns and the fentanyl crisis. The February 4, 2025 announcement imposes a 25% tariff on Canadian goods, with an additional 10% targeting Canada's energy sector. This decision has sparked immediate tension between the longtime allies and trading partners. In response, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced retaliatory measures, a 25% duty on $30 billion worth of American products. These countermeasures target everything from bourbon and wine to household appliances and sports equipment. Trudeau warned of possible additional tariffs on $125 billion in U.S. imports, following a 21-day consultation period. After diplomatic negotiations, both nations agreed to a 30-day pause on implementing these tariffs. Canada has committed to strengthening its border security measures, including appointing a new fentanyl czar and establishing a joint strike force to combat drug trafficking. Despite this compromise, economic experts warn of severe long-term consequences. The U.S. and Canada maintain one of the world's most integrated trading relationships, with annual trade worth hundreds of billions. Any disruption could trigger widespread economic effects, from higher consumer prices to disrupted supply chains. Of particular concern is Canada's oil industry, which produces 5.76 million barrels daily. As the world's fourth-largest oil producer, Canada has historically relied on the U.S. market for exports. These trade tensions are forcing Canadian oil producers to consider diversifying their market options, potentially reshaping North American energy trade dynamics. For continuous updates on this developing story, stay tuned to our channel. Breaking news: Canada shifts oil strategy as trade tensions reshape global energy markets. In a significant move reshaping North American energy dynamics, Canada has expanded its Trans Mountain pipeline capacity to 890,000 barrels per day, nearly tripling its previous capability. This strategic infrastructure development, completed in May 2024, marks a pivotal shift in Canada's economic relationship with Asia and signals reduced dependence on U.S. markets. Industry analysts note this expansion's crucial timing as Canada, the world's fourth-largest oil producer, navigates complex trade relations with its southern neighbor. The country's vast oil sands reserves, estimated at 180 billion barrels, position it as a major player in global energy markets, trailing only Saudi Arabia and Russia in proven reserves. Chinese refiners have capitalized on this new capacity, with Rangang Prochemical securing cargo shipments in late 2024. Japan and South Korea have also increased their Canadian crude imports, showing strong Asian market demand. Production figures underscore Canada's growing energy influence, with output rising from 4.7 million barrels per day in 2019 to 5.76 million daily by 2023. Approximately 64% comes from oil sands operations in Alberta. Environmental advocates argue that expanded fossil fuel infrastructure conflicts with Canada's climate commitments, including its carbon tax policy. The debate intensifies as Canada balances economic growth with environmental responsibilities. China has emerged as Canada's second-largest trading partner, with bilateral trade reaching $25.4 billion in 2022. This diversification strategy reflects Canada's effort to reduce economic vulnerability by expanding trading partnerships beyond traditional markets. Industry experts suggest that Canada's energy sector transformation could serve as a model for other nations seeking to navigate global trade while managing environmental obligations and changing international relationships. In a significant shift of global trade dynamics, Canada's economic relationship with China has shown remarkable growth, even as tensions with the United States continue to escalate. Recent data reveals a 75.2% increase in canola exports to China, marking a strategic pivot in Canada's trade relationships. The numbers tell a compelling story, says Dr. Marcus Thompson, senior economist at the Royal Bank of Canada. We're seeing Canadian businesses actively diversifying their export markets, with China emerging as a crucial trading partner. However, this economic realignment comes with challenges. The trade deficit with China has reached concerning levels, with Chinese imports into Canada hitting $100 billion in 2023, a 16% jump from the previous year. This imbalance raises questions about long-term sustainability. Meanwhile, U.S. tariffs are impacting Canadian households and industries. Economic analysts project that Canadians could face higher prices for everyday items due to the 25% tariff on U.S. goods. The automotive sector in Ontario and Quebec stands as the most vulnerable to these trade disruptions. We're looking at potential supply chain disruptions that could lead to increased costs and job losses, warns Janet Morrison, head of the Canadian Automotive Association. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's handling of these challenges has drawn mixed reactions. His decision to negotiate with the U.S. for a tariff implementation delay has been viewed as pragmatic by some, but as capitulation by others. We're witnessing a historic moment in Canadian trade policy, notes Peter Mackenzie, director of the International Trade Institute. The combination of U.S. pressures and growing Chinese trade ties is forcing Canada to rethink its economic partnerships and strategic positions. As Canada navigates these complex waters, the question remains: can it successfully balance its relationships with both economic giants while protecting its domestic interests? In a significant shift reshaping North American trade, Canada is increasingly pivoting towards China, creating what analysts call a delicate diplomatic dance between three global powers. This development comes amid tensions with the United States, following President Trump's controversial remarks about Canada potentially becoming the 51st state. The deepening Canadian-Chinese economic relationship has sparked concern in Washington, where officials view Beijing's growing influence with mounting unease. China has positioned itself as an alternative market for Canadian exports, particularly in sectors traditionally dominated by U.S. trade. China's investments in Canadian real estate, mining, and technology sectors aren't just about economic opportunities. They're about long-term strategic positioning, says Dr. Margaret Chen, an international trade expert at the University of Toronto. Beijing is playing a long game, and Canada finds itself at the crossroads of a global power struggle. The completion of the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion in May 2024 marks a crucial milestone in Canada's economic diversification. This project provides a direct route for Canadian oil to reach Asian markets, particularly China, reducing dependency on U.S. buyers. However, this economic pivot presents challenges. Canada's commitment to climate change goals seems at odds with increased fossil fuel exports. Environmental groups have criticized Prime Minister Trudeau's government for contradictory policies. We're watching Canada attempt a complex balancing act, notes James Harrison, senior fellow at the Canadian Institute of International Affairs. They're trying to maintain their crucial U.S. relationship while building stronger ties with China, all while managing domestic pressures around climate commitments. The situation mirrors challenges faced by the former Soviet Republic, where economic relationships with competing powers created complex diplomatic scenarios. As global power dynamics shift, Canada's approach could set important precedents for other nations facing similar challenges. In a critical development shaping North American trade relations, Canada finds itself at a complex crossroads as of February 2025, navigating challenges that could redefine its economic future. The ongoing U.S.-Canada trade dispute remains a central concern, with both nations locked in negotiations ahead of tariff deadlines. The Trump administration maintains an assertive stance, signaling readiness for measures if Canada fails to address demands regarding border security and drug trafficking. The fentanyl crisis has become a major point of contention between the allies. The Trans Mountain Pipeline controversy exemplifies Canada's struggle to balance economic prosperity with environmental commitments. This project highlights the nation's position between resource-driven growth and climate goals. Recent developments have provided a temporary reprieve, with tariff implementations delayed following diplomatic exchanges. Canadian officials are working to minimize economic impacts while preventing trade tensions. The situation has prompted Canada to accelerate its diversification strategy, particularly in strengthening ties with China. This pivot towards Asian markets represents a shift in Canadian foreign policy. Internal political dynamics add complexity, as growing opposition to trade policies creates pressure on leadership. The government faces challenges in maintaining public support while pursuing economic adaptations. Canadian policymakers must execute a delicate diplomatic dance, preserving U.S. partnerships while expanding global relationships. The outcome of these negotiations will reshape North American trade dynamics. As the situation evolves, the focus remains on finding solutions that address both immediate trade concerns and longer-term objectives. The resolution of these challenges will influence Canada's economic trajectory and role in global trade networks. The interplay of domestic and international factors underscores the critical nature of the current moment in Canadian economic policy. the decisions made will have lasting implications for North American trade relations.